Hi there. In today's video, I'm going to be making these trousers. Now, I've made these out of a vintage tablecloth that I paid £2 for. But when I saw the beautiful, beautiful colour, I knew that I could make an item of clothing out of it. Now, it's got a deep waistband, which has got 2 strips of elastic going through it. I've deliberately made it super high. Like when I was cutting the pattern out, I left about 6" on top and 6" on the hem. Now, the hem, I was going to make like it's a 6" turn up, but you'll see that as I'm doing the video, but I was going to put some elastic so it looked like a self frill, if you like, on the hem. But then I've decided not to do that just yet. So I've left myself a deep hem in case I change my mind further down the line and decide to do that. But let's have a bit of a chat on how I cut the pattern out and why I cut it out like I did. So I took the pattern for these trousers off a pair of my PJ bottoms. Now, I took it front and back, the pattern, off the front of the pyjamas. But if you've got a big booty, you might want to go and do the back part of the pyjamas separate, because the back's always wider for the hips and goes further up the back. But I tend to do, when I'm taking patterns off trousers, most of the time, just take the pattern off the front because it suits my body shape. So that is why you'll see when I'm cutting the pattern out that I'm only taking the pattern off the front part of the trousers, because the pattern is the same on the front and the back for my body shape. So I love, love, love the colour of this. I paid £2 for this tablecloth, and I think I've got quite a posh pair of trousers from it. So this is going to be another one of my holiday makes that I will wear on an evening. So I'm going to fold that to the centre. Put that across. Got one leg inside the other on the pyjamas. I'm going to cut that there to allow for the seam allowance. Take that right up and then get that again right at the end, and then just coming round from that. I'm going to do the leg slightly wider. Right, okay. I'm going to open that up now. Lay this leg on top of that material. And then pattern match that. Right, so what I'm going to do now then is actually fold these in half so I can stitch the legs up first. It's a beautiful colour, that, isn't it? Right, so I'm going to turn one the right way. And then I'm going to put the right way inside the wrong way leg and stitch the crotch area up. Right, so that's the where the bottom of the crutch is, so I'm just going to get this, line that up at the top. Right, so I've got the trousers on, and I left loads at the top and loads at the bottom, but for a reason. So I have turned, I don't want the crutch to be high and I don't want it to be too low. So I've just positioned it because I want it to be a high waist. So when I've got it turned over here, I'm going to be turning it over, obviously the opposite way, but then I want elastic running through the centre of it. So that's where I'm at now. I'm going to do the waistband first and then go to the hem. I'm gonna be having 2 rows of this elastic. So I'm just going to put that round where it's going to be sat. I don't want that too tight. I want it to be, you know, comfortable, but not too tight. Yeah. So I'm going to cut, allow an inch overlap. So I'm going to cut 2 to that length. So I've got my 2 tubes for the waist. So where the end of this is, I'm going to fold that over. Now there's a line there, so let me just see, because that needs to be folded there. So that needs to be to just over 3. So I'm going to turn that end over, line that up there, put that to the top there, and then I'm going to stitch, I'm going to pin, sorry, not stitch, pin, where I've put that to, which is, set my gauge to there. So that's just over 3, turning that end over, putting that to the top, pinning. Right, so I'm just going to go to the juke and I'm just going to stitch where that row of pins is all the way around, but I'm going to do that off camera. Right, so that has been stitched at the top. So I'm going to put the first band under there, right to the top, and then pin underneath it. Right, okay, so let me just get where one of these seams are. Right, so all the while I'm making sure that that elastic underneath is pushed right up to where it's first been stitched. Right, so the elastic there, so I'm going to just get hold of that, pull it, get that elastic there, making sure that it's flat underneath. And where the elastic is, I don't know if you can see it, but you can just see there. Can you see the line where the elastic is? If I run my nail like that. So I'm running that line just where you've got your 2 prongs on your foot, running it onto the side of that inside foot. So that's the first row of elastic. So I'm going to go back now, I'm going to pin the second lot in and then come back and stitch it. So just stitch it in place now. stretching it out again. Slightly pulling it from the back. Again, just making sure it's right there underneath that stitching. Right, next part to do is this bit at the end. I'm going to tuck that under and then pin that in place. I do that ever so often because obviously I need to stretch it out, you know, as I'm doing it. So let me just get that pinned. Right, so I'm ready now to start stitching that final row on the waist. Now, let me just get that tucked under there. And I'm just running this edge here at the outside edge of the foot. And that's my marker for the guideline. I've got to keep stretching it out as I'm going around. Make sure that that's the same amount. Right, so that is the waistband all stitched. So I've got 4 rows of stitching and 2 lots of elastic in the centre. I've actually pinned it up 6 inch. Now initially my plan was to put elastic in this area so that this area gathered, so it was like a self frill if you like. But I've changed my mind. I'm going to leave them just plain at the minute, but I am going to leave this long in case I change my mind further down the line and I do want to put some elastic in. So I am going to have a really deep hem. So I'm going to take these pins out, turn that under and then pin it, and then I think I'm going to hand stitch these, so I'm going to blind hem so you don't see the stitching. Right, so I'm going to do the same on the opposite leg, but I'm going to do that off camera. Now I'm going to stitch these by hand, and I'm going to do it with the best invisible stitch that you will ever see. So I'm going to get my needle, which is already threaded in the cotton, and I'm going to come up inside under that seam so the knot is underneath that seam. And then I'm going to get inside this top, just a little bit, go in there so the cotton is inside the fold. And then I'm going to just pick a small bit of thread up on the main leg. I'm going to go in opposite there, again, pulling it through there, picking a little small bit up again. coming opposite where that is. So when you get to the end, get rid of those pins. I'm just going to pick a tiny bit up in that seam and then just keep coming through several times to secure the end of that. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to trim that off. And that is the hem stitched. So you'd want to just bear in mind, you can see there's no stitching coming through, that on this stitching that you're grabbing on this, that you're doing it just underneath the top of this, so then you don't see it. So I'm going to do the other leg off camera, give them a press, and then I'm good to try on. So I hope you've enjoyed this make, guys. Just shows you if you're in the charity shops and you see some beautiful vintage tablecloths, think what you can do with it, because at the end of the day, again, it's just fabric. And I've ended up with a great pair of looking trousers for £2. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care for now, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.